Hi there, and welcome to the Transcend and Succeed show. I'm your host, Dawn Livingston, and today I have a fascinating guest. Her name is Dr. Eleanor Haspel-Portner, and she has years of experience helping individuals break through barriers, overcome self-limiting beliefs, and achieve their dreams by revealing cosmic secrets and astrology essentials. She is truly dedicated to providing the tools, strategies, and insights you need to tap into your hidden potential and achieve your goals. And she's here to discuss all that and more today. So welcome to the show, Dr. Eleanor.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Love having you. Thank you so much for agreeing. Firstly, can you tell us your story of transcendence and why you decided to do what you do?
Yes. I began having dreams of knowing with a K when they especially came in after I finished my PhD. And it was as though I was being guided to a different modality. And I realized that I needed to use my skills to help people. So I began on that path as a clinical psychologist and started meditating because I was having dreams of knowing with a K. And I was sitting one day, it was evening, my children were asleep, and I was relentlessly asking myself, of what am I afraid? Of what am I afraid? And suddenly a light came at me from the window, and I was enveloped in this brilliant light, and I was gasping in awe, and it was a direct experience of God. And I was shown religion and paths of religion. I was shown death and rebirth. I was shown relationships and how they work and why they work and what to do with them. And I knew at that moment, without a doubt, that death and rebirth are real, that at the moment of death, we have this instant of all knowledge. And then as we leave our body, we forget, only to be reborn to remember. And so that experience completely changed the trajectory of my life because I'd been writing up my dissertation and had a publisher for it. But I was given in this experience the template of relationships. So I wrote an outline of a book. I had just gone through a divorce, and it had taken me 2.5 years to make the decision to get a divorce. And so I wrote a book about making a decision to get a divorce. And I just wrote an outline, sent it off to a publisher, got a contract back in the mail. And it completely moved me into working with relationships and also beginning to study consciousness because I didn't understand what was happening to me. Mm-hmm. I realized that I'd seen auras since I was born. And all of my psychic abilities began opening up and coming in. And I went from being a not so traditional psychologist to an even less traditional psychologist, because I was integrating the other dimensions of time and space into my work and working with people who were committed to self-growth and to their consciousness, not stuck. They didn't want to be stuck.
Yeah, being stuck is a big thing. I think most of us, yeah, we just go through life not even realizing that we're stuck in certain places and not knowing how to get out of them, really. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the keys is to go back through your life and look at experiences that are challenging. And the question I've always asked, at least in my adult life, is, God, what's so important that you put this in front of me? What do I need to do? And it's always, to me, about learning and expanding and embracing.
That's what life is, isn't it? Expanding your consciousness, your awareness, your knowledge. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you've been using a few tools to do that. So if we can talk a little bit about birth chart readings and human design, I know you wanted to talk about that. So can you explain about birth chart readings and what are they?
Well, in 1971, I read a book, and she said in the book that astrology was the most scientific of any esoteric discipline. I thought, oh, well, then I have to learn astrology. But there were no books. It was not automated. There were no computer programs. So I got some books from a astrology bookstore and started learning how to do charts. And I thought, this is the most difficult thing I've ever studied. And in 1973, I had a reading with Catherine de Jersey, who was an astrologer. And she told me things, that were unbelievable. She told me I'd move from Chicago, and I told her she was crazy. So she said, well, dear, if you're not going to listen to me and you're still going to get an office, at least let me pick when you sign the contract, because you need to be able to get out of it. I did. And I became really interested in astrology and wanted Katie's secrets. She told me the day and time I met my husband, and we met in India. So I began to notice that there was something there. And then I studied astrology pretty extensively to learn Katie's secrets. And then in 1996, I saw the human design mandala. And I recognized it because I was a Jungian analyst. And so I recognized all of the component parts of what was called the human design system: the tree of life, chakras, astrology, and the I Ching are the components in the human design system. But then in 1999, Ra Uru Hu, who was the messenger who gave us the body graph, asked me to validate it scientifically. So I tested it scientifically using social science package for the social sciences, and I tested it on 30,000 cases. And what I found was that it was an incomplete system. The body graph was accurate, but the content, the formulaic content in it, was not accurate. It was incomplete. And so as a social scientist, I needed to do something. I needed to find the components that were accurate. And so I expanded the system using my twin kittens, whose birth times I had to the second. And I was able, using their birth data, to delineate other charts. And when I laid them out, they were critical times in human development. And I've subsequently recognized that what I came up with was actually the body maps in all four worlds. And also that using one moment in time, the birth time, is not enough. We need to use a 3-month period before birth and after birth, because by the time a baby is 3 months old and has volition, all of the cosmic energies in the zodiac have been imprinted into their energetic field. So when we look at that chart, that integrated chart, instead of the 35% of the population being manifesting generators, as the human design system mental chart shows, the integrated chart of four worlds shows that more than 95% of the population are manifesting generators, and they're here to manifest their actual potential. And my work over the last 20 years with the multidimensional human design charts has shown me that there is a very powerful integrated system, which is what my work is about.
Very interesting. So not just, the date and the time that you were born, then you need to look before that and after that.
And the critical periods in development are also delineated. So a birth chart includes the four worlds: mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And I noticed when I was watching your opening that you go through the four worlds.
I do.
So in order for any human being to feel whole, to feel integrated, to feel like their life is functioning, they need to bring together those four components. Yeah. And in the last couple of years, my husband and I have both gotten certified as Tai Chi Gong teachers. And when I'm doing the figure eights in Tai Chi Gong, it's integrating the four worlds. So it's a fascinating social science study that multiple disciplines that are independent of each other all talk about the four worlds, and the system by which we evolve from unconscious to conscious follows a very specific developmental sequence that unfolds in every human being.
Yeah, and you have to address everything, not just the not just the physical body. You've got to go mental, emotional, and the spiritual as well, because every imbalance there will affect the physical body. That's where it's densest and where everything comes out. So yeah, holistic. It's holistic healing, isn't it? Looking at the whole, the body as a whole instead of little parts.
And the psyche as a whole.
Yeah.
And integrating spirit. In my work, what I've found is that the spiritual dimension is actually the integrated field of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So it's also very interesting to me that emotional reactivity occurs only in the mental world, because in the matrices I use, not just the human design chart, but the emotional matrix, the sleep matrix, the physical matrix. So there are 4 different matrices. So we're designed in each world a little bit differently. And the emotional reactivity is only in the mental world. In order to transform it, we need to go through the emotional angelic world, which connects to spirit. And so emotions always need to be transformed.
Mm-hmm. Totally agreed. Totally understood. Yes, I know exactly where you're coming from there. So you base that concept on your noble energy maps. Will you tell us about that?
Yes, noble energy maps are based on the research I did on the human design system. I've now tested my system on 45,000 cases, 30,000 statistically, and another 15,000 clinically. And what I find is that using the multidimensional really empowers people, because when we integrate and use the chart that is the integration when a baby is 3 months old and has volition, that chart shows how they manifest in the world and how they integrate all of the dimensions of the psyche to be one unified whole. So we're not dividing up the consciousness, we're putting it together and using it. And when people move into spiritual practices, the emotional reactivity has the capacity to transform. So for my noble energy maps, I use the birth data, and then I do other calculations, not just one calculation with its prenatal calculation, but multiple calculations to see where the planets were at specific critical times in early development.
I find it fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Like I'd said to you, it's something that I've been, had a little bit of awareness of, but not an understanding of. So this is fascinating for me. Let me ask you about how you integrate the esoteric wisdom and scientific discovery in your teachings then to make them accessible and applicable to a wide audience.
Well, over the course of my career, I would always be looking for what would help my clients. So when I was working with couples, using skills that I used with my children didn't work. When I work with people who are highly conscious, I needed to use communication skills that would access spirit. And so what I discovered retrospectively is that all of the different things I studied because I found a missing piece was actually finding skills that worked in the different worlds. So now when I'm working with someone, if it's a spiritual issue, I use clean language, for example. Whereas if it's a relationship issue, I might use imago therapy skills. Or if it's parents with children, I might use parent effectiveness training skills. So consciousness is state specific, and the skills we use to communicate with our unconscious or conscious are also state specific. And so when I look back over my career, which spans 50 years, I see, I studied that because it speaks to this. And I studied that because it speaks to this. And now I have all this toolbox that I pull from depending on what the need of my client is.
When you need to know it, it'll appear to you, to
Exactly.
learn. Yeah, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I say that quite a lot. I totally understand what you're saying
Or
there.
the teacher is ready, the student appears.
Well, that's true. That is true, yes. I need to start saying that too. Okay, now's a good time. We'll probably just take a quick break. Once we come back, Dr. Eleanor is going to tell us her fun fact. So stick around. We'll be right back. and welcome back. I am here today with Dr. Eleanor, and Dr. Eleanor is going to tell us her fun fact. So over to you, Dr. Eleanor.
Hi. So in the winter in Chicago, right around the time of my first major Kundalini experience, I was told to go scuba dive, and I didn't know how to swim. So in middle of Chicago, the winter in Chicago, I signed up for a scuba diving class because when spirit tells you to do something, you don't ask questions, you just do it. And the scuba teacher said to me at the first meeting, well, you don't really know how to swim. So if you want to get certified as a diver, by the end of the 8 weeks, you're going to have to know how to swim. And so I signed up with a private tutor and learned how to swim. And I have no idea why. I did pass my certification dive, and I have been a swimmer ever since. So I still swim. I don't love swimming, but I'm driven every day to get in the pool and swim. And I can swim endlessly now. So I usually, when I swim, which is almost every day in decent weather, I usually swim 3/4 of a mile to a mile. So,
Wow.
you know, the lesson, when you put your mind to something, anything's possible.
That's very true. I like swimming as well. We were talking about this before. I loved swimming when I was younger, but now I still love swimming, but it's the getting in and the getting out when it's cold. These bits I don't really like. The bit in the middle is cool. I like to do that.
I keep my pool at 88 degrees.
Uh-huh.
And because when I was swimming in public pools in Chicago, especially, they were so cold. I would sit at the edge of the pool and I'd go, do I have to get
Right.
in? And now I sit at the end of my pool and I go, oh, yeah, this is nice.
This is nice. There you go. Fantastic. Okay, before the break, we were talking about the four worlds: the mental, emotional, the physical, the spiritual. How do you navigate them in the work that you do?
I teach about them, and I teach my clients what the differences are in the worlds and how they can identify which world they're in and how to integrate between the worlds. My recent book, Cosmic Guidance, is a book where I've used astrological information in the four worlds using my ennoble energy maps, and I've written a statement in each world for each day of the year, including the integrated. And it's advice to people about how to navigate the energies of the day. And there are different tools. Like I usually recommend that people meditate every day so they're in their spiritual self. Um, Sorry about that.
It's life TV.
Yeah. Um, so probably the two most challenging for people are the physical world and self-care. I find that uh, a lot of people compromise their self-care. They don't take time for it. And it's very critical. So one of the first things I always ask people, what are you doing for self-care? And I see meditation, which takes them into their spiritual self, as part of self-care because the spiritual is the integrated field of consciousness. When we sleep and when we dream, there's carryover between the spiritual and the mental world. And it's happens neurologically in the brain during REM sleep. So we need to protect that space. And the emotional reactivity is where people get into trouble because they cannot transform that at the level of the problem. And so, in order to transform emotionality, I offer people skills to transform them spiritually. I help people do that.
And self-care is really, really important. If we don't look after ourselves, we're not going to be in a position to help other people either. You know, you've got to fill your own tank first, basically.
Right.
Yeah. And people think that it's a selfish thing, and it's not. You know, it's critical for your own, I suppose, in turn, your own sanity. Really, you've got to look after yourself on all levels.
And looking after yourself is, I find myself in my writing often saying to people, go inward and find out where you're aligned and communicate that and stand firm. Mm-hmm. Don't compromise who you are to please another person, because if that person doesn't recognize who you are and what your values are, they're not the right person for you.
For you. Mm-hmm.
They're not respecting you and your sensibilities and your limitations and your vulnerabilities.
Yeah, they need to allow you to be who you truly are and who you're comfortable with being. Yeah, yeah. I understand the concept of journaling, where it's I suppose really helpful for me if my mind's in total chaos. I like to have like a brain dump, if you like, and get it down on paper. But can you describe multidimensional journaling and how it can impact your life, how it can help on your journey?
Yes, I actually, and if anybody wants it, it's on my website. But I developed a worksheet for the 4 worlds, and I break it down: mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, integrated, which my book does as well. And then what I love, what sustains me, and what I'd like to release in each of those worlds. And I also suggest that people do gratitude statements in all 4 worlds, but I've added an additional piece to the gratitude, which is a because statement. I'm grateful for X because, and the because statement needs to be a tangible and concrete effect on you of what you're grateful for. So an example I would use is, I'm grateful that I had time to meditate this morning because it sets my day in motion in a balanced and internally aligned way. Now, if I just said I'm grateful that I meditated, it would have no concrete anchor within my consciousness. So adding the because statement to gratitudes is very important.
It's very interesting. I had never thought about it like that. And I like gratitude. I completely understand how important it is, you know, to be grateful, even if it's just within yourself, about what you have, even
Right.
And you know, things that you don't have. I think that's important to, you know, draw it to you. Yeah.
The first time I was thinking about doing a physical gratitude, I said, I'm grateful that I could brush my teeth today because I have the ability to do that with my hands. I have the wherewithal to have a good toothbrush and toothpaste. You know, let's be grateful for the little things and take it down to that minute segment. Or
like the level, small little. Yeah, because it's the little things that are quite often overlooked, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we take our body for granted.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we do. And we can say all the wrong things to ourselves, which is very detrimental on probably every level.
One of the things I'm going to do in my webinar on Thursday is to ask people to write down 4 memories that they had, 4 experiences from their past that were challenging, and to go back over them and ask what was so important for them to learn from that experience that it became a blessing instead of a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to turn it around, because it's all about perception and the way you view something, isn't it?
And then we want the subconscious to have the proper empowerment rather than going back to seeing it as a negative.
Agreed.
So,
I
inner
love it.
transformation.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. I know you have written several books, about four or five. Well, I know you have another one coming out. So can you talk to us about a couple of those books?
I can certainly talk about them, and I have them here.
Okay.
So the first one I wrote was the Cosmic Secrets, which is about my work in the multidimensional charts, the noble energy maps. And I tell the story of how it came about, why it's important, and what the worlds are. And I give some examples. And then to go along with that, because, you know, the human design system is a synthesis of the tree of life, chakras, astrology, the I Ching. My system integrates those 4 and adds developmental critical periods in human development. So in order to really integrate even into the human design, we need a knowledge of all those systems. I've studied the Kabbalistic tree of life for more than 20 years. So I integrate it, and it's a model of the individuation process. I wrote the Astrology Essentials book, which is written the way I wished I had had a book to teach me astrology. Because when I studied astrology back in 1971, I thought it was the hardest thing I ever studied. And then when I really put my mind to it and took tutorials, and I've studied with many astrologers, it was always hard for me to understand the aspects, how the different planets related to each other, what the signs were, what the qualities were. So many little details that I wrote a book to help people learn astrology the way I wished I had learned it.
So is it like an entry level then? Is it like a basic book for, you know, sort of first level understanding?
Learn astrology, understand what the houses are, understand the signs in a very simplified graphic way. Both books, all of the illustrations are ones that I created and did. So they're all original illustrations that I created as a teaching tool. And then the most recent book is my Cosmic Guidance. Whoops. I forget.
That's a beautiful big book.
Thank you. And then the inside of it is dates. And for example, today I give advice in all 4 worlds. So the book is laid out so that you see color-coded worlds and you see a statement for each. So for example, in the mental world today, I said, your thinking shapes your future. Pay attention to the story you create and live. So what I recommend is that people read each of these statements in each world every morning. And then at the end of the day, there's room on the page to journal. In the spiritual world, I say remain open to all possibilities about your future. What if we're open to all possibilities and not limited by any? What would your day look like? What would your thinking look like? The emotional world Stay within your own limits to master yourself. Imagine if you stay within yourself and your own reactions, and instead of reacting, you share them with another person so they're transparent and you're visible. Physical, actively visualize balance in your health and life. And then the integration, intuitive activity with inner knowing activates awareness and a sense of the importance of taking steps to assure that you are in a healthy situation for yourself. It is the things that support who you are and what you want to accomplish that make this day shine for you. Ask for what you want if the moment feels appropriate, but wait if you have doubts. Any doubts that you consider for yourself, tell yourself to wait. Within a couple of days, your instincts that arise from today will clarify and provide you the broader picture of your sense of inner knowing. Such information confirms that you are on the right track. Hang tight despite your doubts and fears. It is time for planting, not harvesting. Be wary of those who do not understand what you're striving for. So that's my advice for today.
And it's great advice. Self-doubt creeps in a lot, doesn't it? And it's interesting to get your take on it there, to your point, just take a breath and wait.
Right.
So instead of reacting, you can sit back and listen to it and then respond rather than reacting.
The beauty of the map that I designed, but I was downloaded basically, and then validated in numerous scientific disciplines. Mm-hmm. So we know it's valid. It shows that no one moment on any day, at any time in our life, defines who we are. Mm-hmm. And so when I say in one of these statements, wait a couple of days, because the energies are evolving. So tune into your own rhythm, your own pattern, and trust your doubt, trust your knowing, trust your, when you feel that another person is trying to move you off your center, don't move. Trust it. Yeah. And don't be reactive. Have a dialogue. So what I've done is I've sort of weaved these disciplines into a whole, and then looked at how do we use them in a dynamic way that respects the cosmic flow of energy. So instead of being molded or controlled by it, we become co-creators with it. And then all possibilities are open.
That's wonderful. So it is. What about manifestation then? So if someone is looking to manifest, some changes in their lives this year, for example, tell us how you can work with someone and how your work will help.
I usually look at their chart. I look at how they're designed and how they optimally manifest, what the timing is of that. Each of us has a different timing. And when I was first studying the human design system, I was told I was a manifester. And I would say to Ra, who I knew very well and spent a great deal of time and was a business partner with him. So I broke off with him because he wasn't really interested in the science. But what I kept saying is, I'm not a manifester. I don't manifest. I wait and I wait and I wait. And then all of a sudden I know. And when I know because I know because I know, that's when I act. And when I looked at my multidimensional charts, I went, holy moly, this explains something nothing else ever explained, because I'm a lunar generator. So I wait until spirit tells me it's time to act. And then I don't question, I act. And I've done that basically my whole life.
So is there any other steps or practices that you would recommend to them for successfully manifesting?
I recommend that everybody meditate. Mm-hmm. That when you know what you know because you know it, you do not compromise it. Some of my clients said, I wish I had a little button I could push to hear you say that. But what I do with people is I empower them to operate out of spirit and to use the mental world in service of spirit, not spirit in service of the reality world. Okay. And it makes a big difference. And I also have so many skills as a professional that depending where somebody is and what the problem is, I know which tool to pull out of the toolbox to help transform.
Mm-hmm. So have you observed any patterns or factors that contribute to success in manifesting?
Yes. Go back through your life when you've done things successfully and replay them. And replay from inside, not from outside. What was it that you knew that let it be successful? What was the feeling and what was the thinking? Most of the time when we manifest successfully, the undercurrent unconsciously is success. It's optimism. It's knowing that you're going to be successful. And so I always encourage people to do what they know, love what they do. And if you're doing things you don't love, think about changing it, because you're bringing negative energy into the equation.
Yes.
And that is derailing you.
It's a no-no, isn't it? Yeah. Being aware that you're doing that's a big step. So are there any, I suppose, insights or exercises that your clients have found to be most transformative? Anything in particular?
If anybody wants to go on my website, all of the free webinars are posted there. And as part of some of the free, I've been doing the webinars since March, so there are quite a few of them. And along the way, I have a worksheet on goals, a worksheet on the 4 worlds and how to manifest, worksheets on how the worlds interact. It makes a figure 8. I have, as part of the Cosmic Guidance book, at the back of the book is a link to a page with all kinds of resources. Some meditations for empowerment, a 5-minute audio on transforming negative self-talk into empowered self-talk. So there's meditations, worksheets, all kinds of things. And my website has downloads of all the worksheets that I've talked about in all of the webinars. So all of you who are watching, feel free. It's, I offer it to you as a gift.
It's a lovely gift. Thank you so much. How do you approach helping couples navigate, challenges and strengthen their relationships through your teachings?
The first order of business with couples is to make sure their values align. Values are the deal breaker. So I usually like to make sure that they're aligned and that they really do want to be together. So when a couple comes to me, I assess where they are, and I determine which kinds of communication skills are appropriate to teach them. Also, I usually tell couples that the fastest way to stop an argument is with one clean question. What would you like to have happen? Stops an argument cold. If you and your partner are going at it, stop and say to your partner, what would you like to have happen now? Duh. So I don't have a formula. I don't use a formula in any of my work because human beings are not formulaic. Each individual is unique and every couple is unique. So I work with what's in front of me, and it's about teaching them to take emotional reactivity and own it and transform it before you interact. And if every couple would just pause, go inside, what does this emotional reaction remind you of from your past? It's, couples come together because their young psyche hooks up. And what I was shown in my Kundalini experience about couples is that we join with our mate because we believe we're on the same path, going to the same place, and we support each other. If one person veers a little bit off that path, what you want to do is bring them back to center. So we monitor each other. And if we can be allies in that process, we have a great relationship.
Yeah, instead of fighting.
My husband and I met in India because I was told in a meditation to go to India to an ashram, which I had no interest in, but I was told. I met him at the day and time my mentor astrologer told me we'd meet. And we've been together since the day we met almost 46 years ago.
Wow. Congratulations.
And we agreed when we connected that we would only do things that both of us felt were right for us to do as a couple. So if one of us says, this doesn't feel right, we talk about it or we don't do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we don't have fights. We do sometimes, not often. But when we do, we look at what it's about and where our communication has gone astray. And if it's a couple who wants couples therapy, don't go to someone who doesn't have a good relationship. Know who you're entrusting your soul to, and make sure that the person is living the life that they're telling you can live.
Yep, excellent advice. I'm going to put some information on the screen now, and I know you have an offer for the viewers if you want to tell us about that.
Well, I'm just in the process of this book showing up on Amazon and Ingram in the bookstores, and I'm offering you the first 5 people who email me with the title Transcend and Succeed will get a free copy of the book. The book sells for $35, I think. If you want a copy, put Transcend and Succeed in the title and send me your name and your mailing address, and I will have the book sent to you directly from Amazon.
That's a fabulous offer. That's very generous. A free, brand new book. It's fantastic. Okay, let me just pop that off. So, can you share a powerful transformation story then from someone that you've worked with?
Yes. And if anybody wants to validate it, go to the first few webinars from my Noble Energy Wellness Manifest Your Dreams webinars. There was one lady who came to the early classes, and she looked very unhappy, almost like a bag lady. And she had been in this space for quite a while. And after talking to her and making a few suggestions to her and sending some healing energy and clearing her aura, she was completely transformed to the point that everybody in the webinar went, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful." And it was her life completely transformed from being alone for years to finally accepting herself, loving herself, and moving out, finding a relationship for the first time in God knows how many years. And she is now with a partner and thriving. So, and it was working with the four worlds that did it. Recognizing that she was limiting her consciousness and not working energetically with the internal component of her spiritual self.
Awareness, change of perception, change of life. Yeah?
Right. Releasing what didn't need to be there anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. That's lovely. I love hearing stories like that, so I do. So
I do too.
Yeah.
Well,
It is. It's wonderful. I love it. When I get good feedback, it's great. So are there any future projects in the mix that you can share with us?
yes, the Quantum Manifestation Summit comes on next week, and I will be speaking at it on Wednesday, I think, the 24th at, I think it's 2:15. But you can get the schedule for the Quantum Manifestation Summit. I do podcasts and other things, and my program with the energy maps should be released fairly soon. It will be automated with free reports as well as paid reports. And my webinar on Thursdays is always free. It's noon Eastern time on Thursdays on Zoom, and anyone can go to Noble Energy Wellness and register and show up.
Thank you. That's great. That's great.
If anybody is interested in individual coaching with me, my calendar is on my website.
Okay. We're about time to wrap up. We're right out of time now, but it's been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and thank you, listeners, for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Eleanor. Take care. Okay, so thank you so much for the viewers for either watching live or on demand. We will see you next time. Thank you very much.